when I look at Dr. Newton, Dr. Newton is an OG. She is an OG in the movement. Seriously, she has been with Dr. Khaled Muhammad. You hear tapes from Dr. Khaled Muhammad. He talking about Dr. Patricia Newton. You hear tapes from Dr. John Henry Clark. You hear Dr. Ben. All these guys love Dr. Patricia Newton. Love Dr. Patricia Newton. So when I got to meet this sister, I didn't even know she was from Baltimore. I was working in everyone's place, and I was listening to her tapes. And she came in one day and she said, "I'm looking for Brother Nati." And I said, "Well, I can leave a message." She said, "Well, tell him Dr. Newton said." I said, "Wait a minute, which Dr. Newton? You talking about you're Dr. Newton?" "Yes, I'm Dr. Patricia Newton." I was like, "Oh my God." You know what I mean? Because I listened to so many of her tapes there at everyone's place. But this sister is an OG.
I was on my way to being a surgeon and had already accepted an internship in surgery. And I took a senior elective. I was at St. Louis, at Washington University Medical School in St. Louis. And I took an elective at the National Institutes of Health. And I had heard about Dr. Welsing. Actually, I had read her book, The Crest Theory. This was in 1974 that I came to Washington, and Dr. Alice Galati, who was her senior, I called Dr. Galati and I said, "Oh, I want to meet this lady that wrote this book, The Crest Theory, and talking about the genetic superiority and inferiority and dominance and recessiveness of folks." I said, "This is serious. Can you give me a phone number?" So I called Dr. Welsing. She gave me a date to come, and I went to see her for what was to be a 30-minute session. It turned out to be 3 hours. And it was like an old soul and an old spirit meeting. You know, I was like, "Oh, this lady doesn't even know me." And she's sitting here going through all this stuff with me. So when at the interview was ending, or the session was ending, she said, "So I know you're senior this year in medical school, right?" "Yes, ma'am." "I know we're going to see you in psychiatry." I said, "Oh, no." I'm not trying to be a shrink. I'm getting ready to be a surgeon, you know. And she said, "Oh, no, my dear. You are a thinker, not a cutter." And the rest is history. So different. But one of the things you want to do is to always have yourself in a position of being respected, right, of being walking the walk while you talk the talk, and never being able to have to go back and apologize for anything. Now, I'm not saying that folk are apologizing for some of this stuff, but I'm saying that, you know, as you get older and you have children coming along and these kind of things, you want to set a proper example so that they can understand you are descendants of kings and queens.
Right. I said, right.
But when we talk about divine, what we talk about is the fact that it's not that God gives us strength. It's that God becomes strength. The Creator becomes the strength with which we need to manifest. Not giving us anything but stuff that we already have. That we were already given in divine order when we were created. But we're not educated to utilize. Western education is devoid of spirituality.
And I don't care how good and upstanding and upright citizen you have been in the community, you have failed in the context of ethical moral law when you have violated the God image of a child. Period. And so it seems to me quite ironic that many of the experiences of African American children, male and female, have come from sexual predators who have resided within major institutions, the church, the school, and the family.
We've got to move on to a place where we can begin to pool our resources, where we can begin to empower ourselves, support our businesses, create entrepreneurship mentality within our children, learning how to use the system to effectuate positive change, and understanding there will always be adversity. There will always be somebody, if you're moving in the right direction, there's going to always be somebody making a statement negatively about you. There's going to always be somebody attempting to block your blessings. Your job is to not let them do that, and to have a cadre of people that you work with that support you and that you can support, and together we can move mountains.
We're going to begin this celebration. We're here today to celebrate the life and legacy of Nana, Dr. Patricia Newton. So we're going to open up with the pouring of libations. And for those who aren't familiar with libations is the pouring of liquid to remember, honor, and celebrate, the creator, ancestors, and events. So I'm going to first pour water to the mother, father, creator of the cosmos, which has manifested himself, herself as creation and exists in all things within creation. Ashe.
Okay.
We pour water now to the Egungun in our bloodline. So at this time, please call on the names of the ancestors in your directly in your bloodline. If you're in the chat, you can post names of ancestors who are in your bloodline. I'm going to begin calling the name of my grandmother, Evelina McFadden. Ashe.
Ashe. Michael O'Brien, Sheila Tulane, Gavin Hall.
Ashe.
Preston and Eva Winkler.
Ashe. Timothy McFadden.
Ashe.
Delano Bailey.
Ashe.
Myrtle Bailey.
Ashe.
Anyone else in your bloodline you'd like to call the name on? And I unmuted. I'm trying to unmute Mike's Baba Olatunji. I had muted you out because it was like an echo. Professor James Small, could you unmute your mic? I'm trying to unmute your mic. And I can't unmute it. It says because the guests chose to mute themselves. Yes. Oh, you chose to mute yourself. All righty. Any names in the bloodline? I see in the chat room, Harvey Hickelson, Mammy, Virginia Johnson, Ashe, Lily Khan, Ashe, James Johnson, Ashe, John Dixon, Doris Harris, Marissa Harris, Ashe. Someone said Lawrence, my father, Ashe, Villa Carter, Ashe, Donald Walsh, Ashe, James C. Pennington, James Nelson Pennington, Francis Branch, Ashe, Anthony Crawford, Ashe, Dolores Walker, Ashe, Gentleman Sam, Lizzie, Martha Kendrick, Charles Cobb, Ashe. All right. So now we're going to pour libations to the freedom fighters, those who sacrificed their lives for African liberation. I want to start with calling Dr. Patricia Newton's name. Ashe.
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 Marcus Garvey.
Ashe. Henry Highland Garnett.
Ashe. Malcolm X.
Ashe.
Huey P. Newton.
Ashe.
Khalid Muhammad.
Ashe.
Who else do you want to call? Harriet Tubman. Yeah, Martin Delaney. Ashe. Harriet Tubman.
Ashe.
Ashe. All right, we're going to pour water now. I'm sorry, guys. All right, so now we're going to pour water to the Egungun who lived and died during the Middle Passage, chattel slavery, Reconstruction, Jim Crow, Civil Rights Movement, and the Black Power Movement. Ashe. And lastly, we pour water to our unborn children, their children, and their children's children. Ashe. 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 Ashe-o.
Ashe-o.
Ashe, ashe, ashe. I love to hear the drums. It does something to my soul, family, when I hear, the beating of the drums. So at this time, family, we are going to, I'm going to read the bio of Nana, Dr. Patricia Newton. This was actually the bio that she asked me to read when I interviewed her on my show, Truth to Power Talk, back in July. She sent me a bio, and this bio, family, can be found on the website for Black Psychiatrists of America. So the bio is published on the website. If you click about and you scroll down, you'll see her name and her picture right there, and you can read the bio at your leisure. So Dr. Patricia A. Newton, MD, MPH, MA, is the CEO and medical director, a past president of the Black Psychiatrists of America, and serves as its Council of Elders. Dr. Newton is a past distinguished Andrea Delgado, MD, memorial lecturer for the Black Psychiatrists of America, and has been the recipient of both BPA's Isaac Slaughter, MD, Memorial Award for Outstanding Leadership and the Lloyd Elam, MD, Memorial Award for Lifetime Achievement. She is also the conference coordinator for the BPA, serving in that capacity for over a decade. Dr. Newton is a psychiatrist and behavioral scientist specialist who is currently the president and medical director of Newton and Associates and president of Newton-Thulf Incorporated, International Meeting Planners. She is a graduate of the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff, where she received her undergraduate degree and received a master's degree in molecular biology from George Peabody College of Vanderbilt University in Nashville, Tennessee. She completed her medical school education at Washington University School of Medicine, located in St. Louis, Missouri, and her psychiatric training at the same institution, followed by receiving her master's degree in molecular biology from Vanderbilt University Peabody College in Nashville, Tennessee, and a master's degree in public health degree from the Johns Hopkins School of Public Health and Hygiene, located in Baltimore, Maryland. She served on the academic faculty for over 16 years at Johns Hopkins School of Medicine, while becoming the first female chairperson of the Department of Psychiatry at Providence Hospital in Baltimore, Maryland. Dr. Newton has won many awards and citations, including Essence Magazine's Woman of the Year in Health and Medicine, Baltimore Magazine's 100 Influential Women in Baltimore, and Towson State University's Distinguished Black Marylanders. She was one of the first American Psychiatric Association, APA /NIMH fellows as a psychiatric resident that permitted her to attend the inaugural meeting of the BPA's Transcultural Psychiatry Conference in Haiti in 1979. She holds membership in various organizations and has pioneered work with traditional healers in Africa and Brazil. She has worked internationally with psychiatrists and other healthcare providers in Africa, South America, the Caribbean, as well as here in the USA, pioneering techniques for the chronic mentally ill and culturally competency relative to culturally competent mental health delivery globally in HIV or AIDS. Her innovations include culturally competent holistic treatment in chemical dependency and prevention, having her work embraced internationally in Africa, the Caribbean, and in Great Britain with a community-based clinic named in her honor there. Dr. Newton is an internationally acclaimed lecturer and published author of several. She is an Ashanti royal, having been installed as both a queen mother and female king, divisional chief in Ghana, West Africa, where she is known as Nana, Dr. Akusa Akaya, with full rights and privileges that this esteemed position holds. Her clinical psychiatry focus involves anxiety disorders, with special emphasis on PTSD, depression, chronic mental illness, and transcultural psychiatry encompassing the interface of Western and traditional African healing systems. Ashe. Ashe. All right. So at this time, I like to call on Professor James Small to speak about Dr. Patricia Newton. You have the floor, Professor James Small.
Thank you, Imhotep.
Hotep.
Peace and blessings to everyone. Tonight is a night to celebrate the life of an extraordinary African woman who, as was said, was both a queen mother, an extraordinary scholar, physician, and also a chief in the Agogo region of the Ashanti Kingdom of Ghana. Dr. Newton and I, we were very good friends going back, I guess, almost 40 years. What I would want to say is that we pay attention and understand. In our tradition, it says everybody comes to this earth, and we come to the earth with a purpose, which we call a destiny. Everybody unable to find that destiny and then try to fulfill it. But Dr. Newton obviously and most certainly found that destiny that she promised before coming to earth that she would fulfill. And she spent her life fulfilling that destiny. And so when we come to celebrate the life, we are celebrating the fact that she completed the work. A lot of times we think someone left too soon or they left before they were done. That's because we don't know why they came or what the work was they had to do. But I think I know enough to know that if she, being of her stature, had to leave, then her work was finished. Her assignment was done. We think of ourselves as these individual personalities living on earth, but we should think of ourselves like the rays of the sun, that the totality of the universe we call the divine is like the sun. And each of us is a ray emanating from that sun. And though all the rays look alike, and all of the rays is striking the earth, each one of the rays have a particular and peculiar purpose for emanating and serving with what they strike on this earth. And Dr. Newton, I think of in that regards. We had great ones who she walked with before, like Dr. Welsing, who was one of those great lights that came from the greater light. And so she understood that the people that we call the African people, the people that is the first manifestation of the universe as human, thus had a purpose for being in this place called Earth. And that people needed attending to, because that manifestation has gone through many evolutions, many crises, many attacks, many injuries by both aspects of themselves and other things in nature. And so it has to always try to replenish and perfect itself. And she was one of those replenishers and perfecters. And so our place now is to learn about her life, learn from her writings, learn from her speeches. What was the work that she was doing? Because many times when we know someone and we see them or we go to hear them lecture, we don't really know what they're doing. We go and enjoy the lecture, things sound good to us, we applaud. But what is the message? And what is the function of that message? Since I know Dr. Segmet, Nana Kosowa, understood that she was sent to carry out repair of creation. And the African is an aspect of creation. We know that the universe, the totality of creation, which is the divinity, we are just an aspect of it. So if something needs to be repaired on it, something needs to be perfected on it, something needs to be advanced about it, something needs to be enlightened to it, that's what our purposes are. And I think she carried hers out very well. You know, she focused on the injury to our psyche. She focused on the injury, especially to our women, and the kind of damage bad consciousness or unconscious, especially male elements of the human race did to the female elements. How to get those damages repaired, and how to make the female element conscious and the male element conscious of their inappropriate functions as humans. And I think she did an excellent and extraordinary job at that. If we bring it back to not so metaphysical sounding, she loved African peoples. She loved Africa. And she spent her time fighting first to understand her Africa and her people, and then how to help them become conscious of themselves and conscious of the things that would perfect themselves. And so in that regards, I came to simply say, safe journey back home to an extraordinary phenomena who was my sister, a teacher, and a guide in many ways, certainly a comrade and a partner in trying to do the work that we came here to do. And so she's on her journey now back to what we call her village, or back to the rest of the universe. Her matter, all of those 200 plus bits of minerals that make up her body, that was the temple in which she resided. That is still with us, and family and friends will do with that they find appropriate. But that energy, the multi layers of energy that we call the spirit and the soul, and the spirit, soul, and so forth, the multi layers of energy that her voice allowed her to express its intent to us, that has gone back to the rest of the universe from which it came. And in our tradition, it's that it will be counseled with, and she will tell them, the rest of the universe, and them being all of the other ancestors who have been here and have returned, what our situation is, what our condition is, what do we need, what new help must come. And if they choose, they will send her back even more fortified with more information and more tools to assist the perfection process. And if she's complete her journeys, then they will send someone else back using her information to inform and instruct and prepare them for this journey. So Sister Segmet, Sister Pat, Sister Okosawa, Nana Okosawa, safe journey home. I'm sure The ancestors are waiting to greet you with open arms. I'm sure the divine is ready to take you back as a part of itself so that your perfection will be complete. And I hope that wasn't too metaphorical for people to understand. You know, shortly before, a week really before she made her journey back home, we were working on something we called African sacred science, to talk to our people about how to understand their beingness and how to develop that beingness. So Dr. Nobles, Dr. Hunter, and Wade, she had called us three together to help her put that forth. And I hope that me and Hunter and Dr. Nobles will be able to continue that sacred science journey, pulling in others like Brother Tony and others who are working on the spiritual concept and how we present them in her name. We will continue this process to our people. But certainly there's nothing to say except to give you praise. You did your work very well. You were absolutely extraordinary. Your resume tells us how well prepared you were, how well studied you were to understand all aspects of this organism we call the human and his psyche, those different levels of spirit that emanates from that human. So safe journey home. Tell the ancestors all the things they need to know about our weaknesses and our strength and our needs, and tell them that we are happy that they've greeted you back and took you back into their arms. This is not about mourning. Our culture really wasn't big on mourning. It was big on saying, I miss you, and I'm going to miss you. But I'm going to get to know you better in my spirit because aspects of you planted themselves in me. So safe journey home, my sister. Peace and blessings.
Ashe, thank you so much.
Ashe.
Baba James Small, thank you so much for your words. I'm going to call up next Baba Anthony Browder to come in and say a few words.
Thank you, my sister, for organizing this gathering to honor our dear sister. And my heart is heavy. I'm sad, just as everyone else is, to know that we will never see our sister again. We will never receive another email from her again. We will never hear her voice by a phone or in a lecture. But as my brother James said, she is gone, but she will never be forgotten. I've had the honor, pleasure, and privilege of knowing Sister Segmet for at least 35 years. She was my colleague. She was my therapist. She was a business partner. And she was my friend. She was the closest thing I've ever had to a sister. And she knew me. She took to calling me K2, which was short for Karakamen II. She had the opportunity of traveling to Egypt with me on several occasions and visiting the tomb that we're currently restoring of Karakamen, the priest of Amen. And with Dr. Newton's suggestion, along with Dr. Finch, they called me Karakamen II. They said that I am fulfilling my cosmic assignment, restoring my sacred tomb. And I've come to accept that calling because I find myself in the unenviable position of helping sisters and brothers make their way into the spirit world. Just as I was responsible for making the call that led to the discovery of Dr. Welsing in her home before she passed, I also had the occasion to make the call to do a wellness check on Dr. Newton when several people had not heard from her. That resulted in my receiving the phone call from the police officer that she had indeed transitioned. And it was my responsibility to make sure that her soul was taken care of. made arrangements to get her body transported to Brown Funeral Home, and so that she would not lie in the morgue. And we are currently in the process of preparing for her 40-day ascension, which will be held on the 7th of November in Baltimore. We will be sharing information with Dr. Mott shortly, and she'll be sharing this information with her network, where people can see the streaming of her services. So our job now is to make sure that her soul is prepared to say goodbye to this physical plane, that her soul journeys into the double hall of Ma'at, where her heart is weighed opposite the feather of Ma'at, and she is found Ma'at Keru, as we are certain that she will be found, and then will be led to Asar to receive her reward, her congratulations for a life well lived, and she will then prepare herself as an ancestor to be accessible to those of us who know her, who love her, who call her name. And then ultimately, she will be prepared to return to the physical plane to continue her great and mighty walk. So I'm so proud to have known her, to have had her be a positive impact in my life, in my daughter Atlantis's life, in my mom's life. Both Dr. Newton and my mom share the same name, Anne. And to mourn with the rest of the brothers and sisters in Baltimore and the DC area and around the country and throughout the world who are shocked by her sudden loss. Our job now is to make sure that her soul makes its way into the ancestral realm, where she will be forever accessible to everyone who remembers her and calls her name. And by doing that, we will miss her physical presence, but we take great delight in knowing that she will always be accessible to us when we call her and invite her into our head and our hearts. So this acknowledgement of her life's work is one of many that will be conducted over the course of the next weeks and months. And by doing so, we are validating a soul who transformed the lives of every person that she touched and made us better because of the fact that she was in our life. And while I am deeply saddened by her loss, I take great delight in knowing that she is always accessible to me when I call her name, pour libation, and invite her to continue to guide me as I continue to do my work here on earth. And we will honor her, we will lift her up on Saturday, November the 7th at 1 p.m. And I invite all of you to be a part of that commemoration as we acknowledge her ascent into ancestorhood, where she would never leave us again. Ashe.
Ashe.
Ashe. Ashe. Baba Anthony T. Browder. Next up is, I'm going to bring up Baba Imhotep. Baba Imhotep, you have the floor, Baba.
Peace and blessings, my sister, Dr. Mott, for holding this gathering. I think it's instrumental. And I want to say peace and blessings to the Babas that are here. Great work that you have done as well. I got to give honor to the brothers that he has also. When I think about Nana, I like to call her Nana.
Yes.
She nurtured me in many ways. And not only did she nurture me, she nurtured the community. And one of many things that I appreciate and loved about Nana is that she was a straight shooter. What I mean by a straight shooter is she didn't bite her tongue. She didn't hold her tongue. She didn't misuse time trying to flatter someone, in the face of the destruction that our people are facing. She was clear about that. I spent many hours in her office in conversation with her, asking her question after question after question in search of understanding that we as a people are trying to find for ourselves. I was honored and blessed to have been able to travel with Nana Newton last August 2019. We was able to go to Kemet with her. And I had an opportunity to glance a little bit at the tomb that, Brother Baba Tony is restoring. We was, Nana took us there to see that. But just to see how she treated all of us while we was there, to see how she nurtured everyone and made sure everything was fine. She mothered us as a mother would. And at every step of the way, she was teaching. Every tomb we went in, after the God may cease speaking, she would ask her questions. Well, what about this? She made it her business to make sure that we left out of there centered. She made sure we understood, there's many ways in which people are going to try to interpret what our ancestors were doing. And she made sure that we understood that it's about us. And we need to know who we are as a people. Another thing that I liked about Nana is that she was about doing the work. And I believe that the work is so instrumental. And what I mean by doing the work, just for the sake of clarity for anyone that may be listening, I mean that she was in the business of helping African people and working towards African sovereignty. She was in that business. She was in that line of work, which isn't easy work. But she was in that work, and she was always traveling. Every time I reached out to her or called her or texted her, she very rarely was here in Baltimore. She traveled. Every time I get a text message, oh, I'm just leaving Ghana on my way to Nigeria. Or I just left Nigeria on my way to Brazil. I'm just leaving Brazil on my way to Europe. She always was traveling. But she made it clear that I'm not traveling for leisure. She would always say that, this is work. This is not leisure. Granted, every now and then I might get a minute or two, but please be assured that I'm out here working, and this is the example. This is the example. We must continuously serve the best interests of African people. She would forever make that clear. She would forever make that clear. And it's just, I miss Nana. It's like just to know, to just know her, to be around her, to hug her and hold her, to walk with her, just to have her come in and do different programs.
Take your time, Baba. Take your time, Baba. I know. Take your time, Baba.
I'm gonna echo my Baba Small. Nana Newton. Travel well on your way back home. As my elder and soon to be ancestor, I've had the honor to witness and watch you work. And I know that once you return home, that you will be received with open arms. I have no doubt in my mind that you made the ancestors proud, and the example that you set and the example that you laid down, the foundation that you built, many will carry on in like fashion. And my commitment to you is to remember the talks that we had. My commitment to you is that the advice that you gave me, I will heed and I will act accordingly.
Ashe.
But I say, Ashe, and I love you.
Ashe.
Ashe. Ashe. Ashe. All right, family. Ashe. I want to give thanks to Sister Cache Ivy and the brothers and sisters from Philadelphia group in Philadelphia. I give thanks for the drum call and also the African drum and dance video. And hopefully you all will be able to, and I know some of you watching, I see Sister Cache Ivy, she's in the chat. Hopefully you all will be able to come to Baltimore on November the 7th when we have the physical tribute or the 40-day ascension ceremony for Nana Nana Patricia Newton. So at this time, I'm going to bring Minister Asar to the stream. Minister Asar, please unmute your mic, Minister, to say a few words about Nana Patricia Newton.
Greetings, family. Peace to the Barbers,
Greetings.
all three who went before me. I want to say, first and foremost, as Brother Imhotep was saying, definitely one of the most things that stand out to me the most about Nana is her realness. And I want to thank Brother Jabari for formally actually introducing me to Nana, Dr. Patricia Newton. And I've heard about her for many years, but Brother Jabari, I worked with him to put on some lectures and things of that nature, and I got the chance to actually spend some time and really get to talk more privately and more one-on-one with her since then. And I want to say I really appreciate her balanced approach. She dealt with the African sciences. She also dealt with the sciences that she was trained in. She used them for our people. I asked her some questions that I definitely don't hear a lot of us talk about from the mental health realm. And she helped me understand these things a lot better. More specifically, I really appreciate her work on trauma. And, you know, those who experience acts of violence from a sexual nature. But one of the talks that I had with her, she spoke about the importance of scientific rigor. And that stood out to me. She challenged, you know, those of us in the mental health field to actually do more than conceptual and theoretical papers, to really start to utilize the scientific modalities or methods or whatever to kind of like, let's make this thing empirically based, which I, you know, really meant a lot to me. And part of the reason why I'm completing my dissertation utilizing a quantitative approach is because of those words, because she said we need that. So she always came from a balanced approach. I appreciate that balanced approach, and I pledge, I won't be long, and I pledge to carry that on, you know, and specifically this idea that she spoke about post-traumatic slave disorder. She speaks about this post-traumatic slave disorder that she spoke about for many years, and my dissertation especially is on that post-traumatic slave disorder and its relationship to Black identity. And I will, and she will, walk with me through this process. And I say, that's how I will carry the torch forward. And I thank her and all the elders and all the Babas and Mamas and ancestors for all that they've done before us, and plan to carry that torch forward. Ashe.
Ashe. Thank you so much, Minister Asar, for your words. Up next, I would like to bring Professor Hunter James. I'm going to add Professor Hunter James to the live. Professor, you have the floor, sir.
That's Hunter Adams. The third.
Oh, Hunter Adams. I'm sorry. Hunter Adams. Yes, sir. You have the floor.
Greetings, Dr. Maad, and thank you very much for putting this tribute together. And thanks for all the people before me who have spoke so genuinely and emphatically and empathically about how they are remembering Nana, Dr. Patricia Ann Newton. I want to share a few things that few people who knew her didn't know or didn't know that well. And the first thing is she was instrumental in being a part of groundbreaking efforts to give an African-American, Africana view of science, technology, medicine, and so forth. And so myself and Dr. Karen Edwards at University of Cincinnati organized a symposium back in 1990. And Dr. Newton and Kamal Siddiqui, who is with the Slave Wreck Project, and Dr. Vernita Fort, who was at that time at the State Department, and others came together and really put on the map that African people, at least in the United States, had a view on everything pertaining to science and life, because we had been locked out of discussions. And so she was part of that. And out of that movement came the founding of the Kim Ware Science Consortium. That and Dr. Wade Nobles in 1987, I believe, established the first Melanin Conference. And that really put the whole idea of reframing the notion of Blackness, you know, not as something negative, evil, contrary, and things like that, but something of a profound, deep mystery, particularly when you look out every night and you can see the blackness of the sky. And that reminds us who studied Kemetic philosophy and theology that there was something known as the perfect black. And that perfect black was the highest, most exalted state of consciousness an individual could attain with great effort, of course. And so she was one that advocated meditation, deep meditation, not as a lot of people taking entheogens or ayahuasca or psilocybin. You may have some profound perceptual experiences, but she, at a conference we had in Baltimore a few years ago called Seeking the Secrets of Consciousness, that will not lead you to the perfect black stage, something akin to nirvana or samadhi. The other thing I'd like to share is she was a diplomat, someone who was engaging ambassadors to many nations. You know, I was in DC and there was an event at the Mexican embassy there, and everyone knew her like she was part of the Mexican community. And that's how she was, no matter what country's representative she was dealing with. You know, I watched her in Chicago at a meeting called the Motivation Show interact with the ambassadors from the Bahamas and also from the Czech Republic. So she had a way of talking with people that didn't put anyone down, but she had a finesse with language, and that finesse with language extended to a whole host of things, particularly conversations that we always would have, you know, 2, 3 times, 4 times a week, regarding trauma and the possibilities of how we can heal ourselves from this trauma and not get entrapped, being bamboozled. You know, there's something known as the bamboozlement index, which she was going to have a guest on her show, Attorney James Childs, but we had to figure out how to do that later. Finally, she was really concerned, as many of us know, with trauma and with human trafficking, and had engaged a former FBI agent, Greg Bristol, and who came to the Thurgood Marshall Center when our organization, the Royal Circle Foundation, had a conference on human trafficking that's taken place under our noses here in Baltimore, in Chicago, and DC, and in the South. And so it was, how can we raise the consciousness of our communities to be aware of what the signs are when something like human trafficking may be going down. And so that's another thing that, despite all of her other intellectual and professional accomplishments, I just wanted to share those few things to show that there was another dimension of her, because, here's a woman who could simultaneously exist and work in multiple professional communities at the same time, whether it's the medical community, the psychology community, the travel meeting planning community, the cultural community, notwithstanding the retreats that she had on the continent in Ethiopia and Egypt and in Ghana and Senegal, in the Caribbean. She put together a piece on resetting ourselves in the Virgin Islands with another ancestor, Dr. Richard King, and myself. We were the presenters, and she was. So there's a multidimensionality to her presence. And now, sadly, after reading this beautiful tribute to her in the Baltimore Sun yesterday, it's a loss. She was a gift to us and to our world, but also it's a great loss. And so, yes, she's an ancestor, but we have to find ways to continue to honor her legacy by doing the work and following the trail that she has left us. Hotep, Ashe.
Ashe, Professor Hunter Adams. And my apology, Professor, for mispronouncing your last name.
Oh, no problem at all.
I'm so sorry about that. All right, last but not least, I'd like to bring up my dear brother Jabari Nator. It was actually Brother Jabari Nator who introduced me to Dr. Patricia Newton, just like with Minister Asar. I never heard of her until he introduced me to her a few years back. I think, Brother Jabari, that was 2018, 2017, around that time, or was it later than that? Was it earlier than that?
I think it was 18. Must have been 18.
Yep. And then you organized the lecture I did with her on sexual exploitation around the time that the R. Kelly docuseries dropped, the Surviving R. Kelly. And so that was, but I met her before then. And I know that you brought her to Baltimore a lot of times, actually. And so that is when I was introduced to Nana. But go ahead, Brother Jabari Nator, you have the floor.
All right. Peace to the family, Professor Smalls and Professor Adams and Brother Asar and Brother Imhotep. Peace to the family. I'm glad to be here. And y'all know, that sister was like the mother of the lecture series. She was the mother of. It's funny because I told the story several times, but when I met Dr. Newton, I was working in everyone's place, which is the mecca of consciousness, all over the world. Even it's here in Baltimore, and I was working there and listening to different lectures and tapes by Professor Smalls, Naeem Akbar, Tony Browder, Dr. Barshango, and they had a wall of knowledge. And I would listen to every lecture there so that I can get to learn, a lot of the different things. And then I would hear them often say, Dr. Patricia Newton, because I told you in those circles, everybody would name drop each other to promote each other. And got to Dr. Patricia Newton and finally heard one of her lectures. And she really inspired me. Just some of the stuff that she would say, like she did one lecture and she was talking about the power of the Black woman, the African woman. And she was saying that, a Black woman got the power that if they closed their legs, they would put Black men in line and we would have a revolution overnight, And so I was like, yeah, that's right. I didn't have daughters during that time, what I'm saying? But I guess she kind of prepped me for all of the daughters that I have. I have 4 daughters right now, so I had to I wanted to create those women, who were going to take those stances and different things. But, I heard that lecture. She talked about, like I said, different things with meditation and all. And then when I was in everyone's place one day, sister came in and she was shopping, and she said, she came up and had her stuff in her hand to buy, and she said, "Can you do me a favor? And, I want to leave a message with Brother Nati." I said, "Oh, no problem." And I said, "Well, what's your name?" She said, Dr. Patricia Newton," and I was like, "Dr. Patricia, like Patricia, the lecturer." And I got so excited, me and ran over, gave her a hug. I was like, man, it was like me meeting, any star. Anytime I met any of the lecturers and all. So we hooked up. I got her phone number, and from there, because I hadn't at that point I hadn't done lectures as of yet. I was just touching the surface, and probably like the next few months, I started bringing people out for events, and she would come out. She started coming out because she was the person that was doing lectures before me. And she kind of passed her time. She still did lectures. She still did everything she did, but in Baltimore, she kind of like passed the torch to us because we did, a whole lot of lectures all the time. And she still did her thing, but she still came out to support, and every time people came out, from Dr. Khaled Abdul Muhammad, they love Dr. Newton. Dr. Khaled, well, this is one of the baddest black women to ever walk the planet Earth, So he would always give her all this love and props, and everybody did. So she was with me and next Wednesday will be 25-year anniversary for Survivors Nation Reality Speaks. 25 years of us doing this information and knowledge. So she's been there the whole time, ever since we started, and would always be there whenever we needed her to do events. The last time I heard from her this year was she was calling me to ask me about Dr. Layla Africa. Was it true that Dr. Layla Africa had passed away? That was the last time I actually talked to Dr. Newton. So I love Dr. Newton, her spirit. That was like I said, she was my mama, you know what I'm saying? Like, and I would always honor her and respect her, and always continue doing the work that we've been doing thus far, and we'll continue. But definitely love that sister and her spirit, and I will always honor and always lift her name here in Tubman City, here in Dr. Newton City, you know what I'm saying? We probably say an African name, but we would always honor and respect that sister.
Ashe. Thank you so much, Brother Jabari Nator. Last but not least, I'm going to add Baba Olatunji.
Me, first, I just want to pay homage to beautiful light. I met the sister back in, I believe, 1991. She had brought Charles Finch in, and that was my first meeting with her. After the lecture, I got the opportunity to talk with her, and of course, living in Baltimore, I saw her many times as she brought ushers in, and then of course, as she passed the torch to Jabari. I would see her at many of Jabari's events, because Jabari knows I was always at his events. That was a regular thing. I attended many of Jabari's events. So she was such a beautiful, warm, inviting sister. You could talk to her about anything. And for me, I learned so much from her, just from the lectures that she brought in, and from the sidebar conversations I would have from her, periodically. She had this one saying that I always used to recite pretty regularly with different people throughout the years. And she would say that the truth is, how did she say it? The truth is oftentimes what you believe, but the facts are facts regardless of what you believe. And that has always been something that I applied to my own life after having heard her say it. I just, just from just being around her and talking to her, I often wish that some of the things that she talked about, that she had gotten a chance to really, really put them down. Like I remember a lecture probably about 3-4 years ago that she gave, and Tony Browder was there. and she was talking about this red dot. And I remember Tony telling her, "You got to put that on paper, sister. You got to put that on paper." I don't think she ever did, but I wish she had. She was just, like I said, she was brilliant, intelligent, witty, um, uh, impeccably prepared in terms of when she gave lectures. And her knowledge was incredible and long reaching. She brought in everybody, Clark, Ben, I would, like I said, I was there. So um, my homage is that may she walk and continue to bless us with her spirit. May the ancestors receive her, and may her heart be light as a feather as she crosses over into a mentor and to be one with Asar. And may she continue to shine light on us from afar, from the other side, as we go forth and continue to help us in our battles and our fight against the system of racism, white supremacy, white terrorism, each and every day. And I'm just honored that I was asked to pay homage to her, because she so richly deserved it and more. I wish more people knew about her than do. And I'm certain there are a lot of people that do, but there are some people who may not have. But if you had gotten an opportunity, you would know how beautiful a woman she was, and how great she was. Her knowledge is just immense. And so I am honored to be able to honor her, because she so richly deserved this and more. And of course, I am saddened that she has crossed over to the other side, but that is a journey that we will all take. So I take solace in the knowledge that she did what she came here to do and what she agreed to do when she came here. So with that, I say, Ashe.
Ashe. Ashe. And if you're interested in learning more about Dr. Patricia Newton, if you go to YouTube, there's some YouTube videos. There's only maybe 4 or 5 that I came across, but contact Brother Jabari Nator. Okay, Brother Jabari, could you please give the people your contact information, because I know that you have over a dozen lectures by Dr. Patricia Newton. So I'm gonna put you on the screen. Could you please give the people your contact information?
Yeah, definitely. And I used to produce for Dr. Newton when she would go out to her events and lectures and stuff. So I would always send her with a package of DVDs that you would actually take out with her at all times. But we do have I think maybe at least 10 that we produce through Reality Speaks. So you can get in contact with me actually through our website. It's Daddy Watoto. I'm sorry, it's Solvivers Nation at gmail.com. So SOLVIVAZ nation.com. You can get in touch with me if you're interested in any of her lectures or whatever. You can get in touch with me there. So it's Solvivers SOLVIVAZ nation.com.
And Brother Jabari has, really a collection of lectures, a lot of lectures, family, that we haven't seen. You think that YouTube has a collection. Brother Jabari has a collection of lectures by, Dr. Francis Cress Welsing. You go ahead and name them, Brother Jabari. Dr. Francis Cress Welsing, Professor James Small, Baba Tony Browder, Dr. Newton. Who else, Brother Jabari?
We got Brother Olatunji on there too. We got we definitely Brother Smalls. We have quite a few lectures with Brother Smalls. We got one with Brother Smalls with him and Dr. Ben on the same actual lecture.
Wow.
We have Dick Gregory. We have Sister Soldier. We got Dr. Khaled Abdul Muhammad, Dr. Africa. We got so many by Dr. Africa, so many by Brother Tony Browder. We would come together with Brother Tony Browder and do all these breakdowns of all these movies and different TV shows. And so we got so many of those that we actually have. You, Dr. Mayat, we started a series with you. I think we got about 5 going on now. We have the history of the Henrietta Lacks. and quite a few, so I mean, and more to come, but we got over 125, I think it's about 125 different presenters that we have through Survivors Nation. Like I said, it's been 25 years. When next Wednesday will be 25-year anniversary that we actually have. So it's been an honor. It's been an honor to meet these people who have basically put me on my, my life journey, and these people, man, I mean, I can remember listening to my first, reading my first Tony Browder book, the Browder.
Yes.
And then meeting him, it was crazy. And then, from there with Brother Smalls and, looking at him from those, at that time, VHS tapes and then actually meeting these people in person, man, it was life changing to me. It was everything. And it helped me to be able to bring them to Tubman City, to Baltimore, so that they can be able to, meet everybody else. I mean, I can remember telling you when I hooked up the thing with Dr. Newton with the lecture that you did. I said, Dr. Mayat, you got to do a lecture with Dr. Newton. You got to, because it's like passing the baton. What I mean? It's like, she the OG, and you the sister that's on the scene now. And I told you, I said, you said for real, Jabari? I was like, you have to do a lecture with Dr. Newton. And if you remember me saying that to you, what I mean? So
yes, I remember.
A classic presentation. But yeah, I mean, so we do have quite a lecture series, and all these, I mean, these elders around us, and now have become elders. Man, they've been dropping it for so long, and it's been an honor and a pleasure for me to be able to host them and bring them here to Tubman City. And like I said, Dr. Newton was the person that was bringing them before I was, before I was even conscious. Like Brother Olatunji said, he was going to her lectures before I was, when I was in high school running around doing crazy stuff. So, she was holding it down then, and she'll continue to hold it down, with her spirit, and we won't ever let her be forgotten.
Absolutely. Ashe, thank you so much for that. I just want to take some time out to thank all of the brothers on the panel. I give thanks for you, Professor James Small, Minister Asar, Baba Olatunji, Brother Jabari, Professor Hunter James, also Baba Anthony T. Browder, and also Brother Imhotep. I thank you all for coming on and just sharing some words about Dr. Patricia Newton, sharing your thoughts and about her and your experiences with her and her ideas and what she represented and what she meant to you. So I thank you from the bottom of my heart. I also give thanks to everyone in the chat room who tuned in. Some people are watching on YouTube. Some people are watching on Facebook. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. I do appreciate it. Professor James Small, I want you, Professor, to close us out. And then I'm going to let Dr. Newton close us out. But I want you to close us out, Professor James Small.
Thank you, Dr. Mott. I just wanted to bring up some other spaces they may find her work online. Go to the Transatlantic Production YouTube channel. The First World Alliance in New York, they have their tapes out. She used to speak with Dr. Attorney Alton Maddox multiple times, the Slave Theater multiple times. What are people to really see that this woman, this girl child that came out of her mother from the universe, brought aspects of the universe to us. Yes, she used her body and her voice and her intellect to explain it. But what she was bringing to us came directly from the thing we call God. And she knew it. She knew it. So remember segment. Remember Nana Kosawa. Remember Dr. Newton as one of the lights from the divine that came to shower knowledge and understanding on your consciousness. And study her. Reach out to Jabari. Reach out to the internet. Study her words. Study her tapes. Because that enlightenment, she was the conduit that was prepared by the divine to bring you information in a type of way that would impact your psyche in a manner that would allow a certain kind of healing to take place and a certain kind of growth to take place. And so in the deepest universe, Hunter referred to it as the blackest black, the deepest black. I mean, that's the pure love. She had become that pure love of the divine for that aspect of itself that we call creation. So we love you, Nana. You're on your journey. I know you're meeting many other people along the way. I know you're seeing the light energy and all of its multiplicity that you have now become a part of. And though we are sad and we miss you, we know you are very joyful right now. And every now and then you're probably giggling and laughing at us who still have to trudge in this desert, you know, that you no longer have to be in. So bless you, my beloved. You know, safe journey home.
Ashe, Ashe. So I'm gonna let Nana close us out, family. I'm gonna let her close us out.
When I look at Dr. Newton, Dr. Newton is an OG. She is an OG in the movement. Seriously, she has been with Dr. Khaled Muhammad. You hear tapes from Dr. Khaled Muhammad. He talking about Dr. Patricia Newton. You hear tapes from Dr. John Henry Clark. You hear Dr. Ben. All these guys love Dr. Patricia Newton. Love Dr. Patricia Newton. So when I got to meet this sister, I didn't even know she was from Baltimore. I was working in everyone's place, and I was listening to her tapes. And she came in one day and she said, "I'm looking for Brother Nati." And I said, "Well, I can leave a message." She said, "Well, tell him Dr. Newton said." I said, "Wait a minute, which Dr. Newton? You talking about Dr. You're Dr. Newton?" "Yes, I'm Dr. Patricia Newton." I was like, "Oh my God." You know what I mean? Because I listened to so many of her tapes there at everyone's place. But this sister is an OG.
I was on my way to being a surgeon and had already accepted an internship in surgery. And I took a senior elective. I was at St. Louis, at Washington University Medical School in St. Louis. And I took an elective at the National Institutes of Health. And I had heard about Dr. Welsing. Actually, I had read her book, The Crest Theory. This was in 1974 that I came to Washington, and Dr. Alice Galati, who was her senior, I called Dr. Galati and I said, "Oh, I want to meet this lady that wrote this book, The Crest Theory, and talking about the genetic superiority and inferiority and dominance and recessiveness of folks." I said, "This is serious. Can you give me a phone number?" So I called Dr. Welsing. She gave me a date to come. And I went to see her for what was to be a 30-minute session. It turned out to be 3 hours. And it was like an old soul and an old spirit meeting. You know, I was like, "Oh, this lady doesn't even know me." And she's sitting here going through all this stuff with me. So when at the interview was ending, or the session was ending, she said, "So I know you're senior this year in medical school, right?" "Yes, ma'am." "I know we're going to see you in psychiatry." I said, "Oh, no." I'm not trying to be a shrink. I'm getting ready to be a surgeon, you know. And she said, "Oh, no, my dear. You are a thinker, not a cutter." And the rest is history. So different. But one of the things you want to do is to always have yourself in a position of being respected, right, of being walking the walk while you talk the talk, and never being able to have to go back and apologize for anything. Now, I'm not saying that folk are apologizing for some of this stuff, but I'm saying that, you know, as you get older and you have children coming along and these kind of things, you want to set a proper example so that they can understand you are descendants of kings and queens.
Right.
When we talk about divine, what we talk about is the fact that it's not that God gives us strength. It's that God becomes us. The Creator becomes the strength with which we need to manifest. Not giving us anything but stuff that we already have. That we were already given in divine order when we were created. but we're not educated to utilize it. Western education is devoid of spirituality.
And I don't care how good and upstanding and upright citizen you have been in the community, you have failed in the context of ethical moral law when you have violated the God image of a child, period. And so it seems to me quite ironic that many of the experiences of African American children, male and female, have come from sexual predators who have resided within major institutions, the church, the school, and the family.
We've got to move on to a place where we can begin to pool our resources, where we can begin to empower ourselves, support our businesses, create entrepreneurship mentality within our children, learning how to use the system to effectuate positive change, and understanding there will always be adversity. There will always be somebody, if you're moving in the right direction, there's going to always be somebody making a statement negatively about you. There's going to always be somebody attempting to block your blessings. Your job is to not let them do that, and to have a cadre of people that you work with that support you and that you can support, and together we can move mountains.